Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular, the AWD1100 C# Programming Fundamentals class, I've been going through a series of video presentations based on the book for the class. As you can see on your screen, it's Muroc C# 2015. I am in the middle of Chapter 11 on how to debug an application. So I'm going to pick it back up here where I was. And here's the future value application after a data tip is displayed. Well, again, a few things about this. The tip is displayed in here. All right. The line that's in error is in yellow. And this is called a local window, where you can see basically everything that is involved, so to speak, in this particular program. So notice monthly investment, yearly interest rate, months, years. Now it blew up here, so this stuff hasn't been set yet, and that's why you see a lot of things that are set with zeros. Again, we can put a breakpoint in someplace. In this case, we're putting the breakpoint in the for loop. So it will stop right there, and we can check out the values of anything that's up above. All right, now if nothing else has been set other than future value here, which is 0, you won't be able to do much else. All right, I showed you how to set a breakpoint, and that was by basically clicking, or as it says, tapping, in what I was always told was called the gutter area to the left of the statement. You can also press the F9 key to set a breakpoint wherever you currently are. You turn it off the same way you turn it on. In other words, it's a switch or whatever you want to call it, like a Boolean. All right. You can set a breakpoint before you run an application, or while the application is running but is in break mode. So again, to remove it, you just use the same thing that you did to set it. If you've got a bunch of breakpoints set, you can right mouse click on any one of them and choose Debug Disable All Breakpoints. So here are some of the commands that are on the debug menu. You can hit the F5 key, and if the program is not running, that'll begin the run. If you hit F11 to step into it a line at a time, and you've stopped and you want to continue on, or even more important, if you've hit a breakpoint, all right, and now you want it to continue, you typically click here or press F5. Now, it's always been what I have found, it's easier to click the arrow than to remember F5, but either one will work. All right. If you want to break out of everything that you're in, you can do a break all, or you can hit there, or do a control alt break. Now the key thing, the key takeaway about this and the stop debugging is typically you're debugging a program, you find an error, you're like, oh, I'm going to fix that. You should get out. Sometimes it'll actually let you type things while you're in debug mode. You should never do that. You should always just click the red square to stop debugging, get back to your program. All right. Notice there's a show next statement. The step into we've already looked at. The step over, a lot of times that's used with loops, because if I've got something, let's say, that's looping 1,000 times, and I do the step over, when I get to it, it'll basically go through the 1,000 times without having to go through it once, go through it twice. It steps right over it. It's as though it was one statement. All right. And if you're in a routine and you want to get out, you can do the step out. The way to learn these commands is to just sit and play with them. The run to cursor is kind of neat. Notice what it says. It executes the application until it reaches that insertion point. Boom. Then it stops. The set next statement, it says, set the statement that contains the insertion point as the next statement to be executed. All right. Now, I already mentioned this locals window to you. The locals window allows you to take and look at anything that's currently in scope and take a look at it, and you can see its current values. Now, I definitely don't do as good a job as I should of taking advantage of the debugging tools that are available in Visual Studio. I know how to use them, all right, but for some reason, and I think many programmers end up doing this, that rather than using these tools, we end up writing a lot of the equivalent of alert type of statements, all right? So the locals window, as it says, displays information about variables within current or local scope. To display it, you click on the locals tab or do a debug Windows local. If you're debugging a form, it says, and you click the plus sign to the left of the keyword, the properties are displayed. That's over here. You can also change the value of a property or a variable while the program is running. So you can come in here, typically, double click in here and change the value, and then start the program up again by pressing the enter key. All right, how to use the autos window. It says it works like the locals window, but it only displays information about variables being used by the current and previous statements. All right, so there you can use the debug Windows auto command. You can also use the watch window, and what the watch window will allow you to do is to put what's called a watch on a variable. So as your program is going through a loop, or just as it's going through typical program execution, what you can do is put a watch on a variable and see what its value is at any time during program execution. All right. There's an immediate window, and you can actually use this in a lot of different ways. You preface things with a question mark, which means this means print the current value that's in the text box for TXT interest rate. You'll notice it's in double quotes because, again, anything that's inside of a text box is automatically a string. You could even do math in here if you wanted to. You know, for some reason, you could say question mark 7 times 8. It would give you 56. You could use it to print anything you want to print out, but typically it's used like this to show the values of current variables. The call stack window, basically the call stack is what functions have been called to get you to the point where you are in the program. All right, and it'll always, I mean, when it shows you the call stack, it shows it to you in reverse chronological order. So the newest one should be at the top, then the one that called that, then the one that called that. And it's always interesting when I talk with students about this, because when they start using the call stack window, they'll be like, well, it says there that the error is in my program, but it's not. And there were a bunch of C# functions, built-in system functions, that were called, so the error really must be in one of them. It probably isn't. It's probably in your code someplace. All right. So here, there's the call hierarchy, as it says, with 2 methods displayed. Kind of what I just told you. An output window that shows debug information. Don't dismiss this. In other words, this can be something as simple as, now I'm running a console app, but when you'll notice in here, all right, notice how right away that's in red. Don't know if I can bring this up or not. I actually have an error window. Error list. Here we go. So notice it's telling me right here. It says semicolon expected, and if I click it, it's even taking me right to the line. Now, sometimes when you do this, all right, it may show you the error a few lines down. But the bottom line is, so I'm going to leave this one off here. All right, so now notice I've got the same type of error, but it's here. When you work on this stuff and you get an error, it should be somewhere between the top of the code listing and wherever it's showing you the error. All right. Okay, where am I for time? I'm at 10 minutes. I'd like to finish this, so let's see how it goes. The output window also shows when you do build information. So if the build would fail, typically you'll get some kind of a reason why it fails. Here's an output window with debug information, so you can see here that this is set. There's a breakpoint right here, and it's also giving you a bunch of information. All right, methods of the console class that write data. I've already shown you console.write. The difference between console.write and console.writeLine. Console.write keeps the cursor on the current line. Console.writeLine sends it out to a new line. Here's some examples. Okay. The visualizer menu on the locals window. Not ever used it. All right, so notice, looks like you can right mouse click on here and choose text visualizer. Like I said, I have never used it. Looking in here, and it looks like all the stuff involved right there is all different things that are in strings, but I don't know. There's the dialog box. So notice they put in calculation string. There it is. And it shows you all of the values that have been set. Kind of a neat tool. And that is it. So, when I come back again, I believe I will be in the next section. And the next section, starting with Chapter 12, I believe is a beginning of object-oriented programming. And it is. So I'll be back with that shortly.